Prihatin TV, suara prihatin rakyat. Jho Low, orang buruan paling dikehendaki. Bahagian 1.
He's one of the most wanted men on the planet.
A playboy, a con man.
Accused of masterminding the world's biggest heist.
A $4.5 billion fraud.
Stolen from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund, 1MDB.
I think he should be punished severely.
On the run since 2016, Al Jazeera has secured never-before-heard recordings of the Malaysian fugitive Jho Low trying to bargain his way out of going to jail.
Definitely, she's the one person that would have records of everything.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You must be a very busy man.
Yes.
Trying to help a busy man. Make your job easier.
The disarmingly cheery voice is Malaysia's infamous fugitive, Jho Low.
To be honest, I'm happy to talk to you via WhatsApp. I'm happy to do a video chat because for me it's very transparent. So, I mean, if you all need to record or not, it's fine totally. I have no issues.
Not seen nor heard for 5 years. What you've been listening to is a recording of one of a series of phone calls between Jho Low and the Malaysian government that took place from May to November 2018. The recordings, exclusively obtained by Al Jazeera, have been independently verified.
As far as I'm concerned, I just want to do whatever it takes to sort of move on.
Jho Low's distinctive accent is a legacy of an education at London's elite boarding school, Harrow, and then Wharton Business School in the United States. Born into a rich Malaysian family, their wealth was nothing compared to what his became. Notorious for his decadent lifestyle, famous and powerful friends, extravagant gifts, luxury real estate and accessories, a super yacht and a Learjet. One of the first to question the source of his mega wealth was Malaysian MP Tony Puah.
I mean, you want to put him in jail. I think he should be punished severely, but you cannot help by being impressed. He could be mixing or partying with the top Hollywood stars, and tomorrow he will be able to have wine with some of the top leaders around the world. To be able to make all these deals happen.
But in 2016, the paparazzi photographs stopped.
I've gone from at least being able to meet people, now I'm like on lockdown, but okay.
Jho Low went into hiding as investigators around the world closed in on a shocking global crime. At the heart of it was Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund, 1MDB, set up in 2009 by the country's then Prime Minister, Najib Razak.
Today's case is the largest single action ever brought by the department's Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. 1MDB was created with the ultimate goal of improving the well-being of the Malaysian people. But unfortunately, a number of corrupt 1MDB officials treated this public trust as a personal bank account.
Jho Low is the centerpiece of this scandal. There's no question. I think that he, in part, was the mastermind. He clearly was the facilitator.
Michael Hirschman co-founded Transparency International. The worldwide organization exposes government and corporate corruption.
Jho Low was a consummate networker, a real internationalist, someone who over the years got to know the stepson of Prime Minister Najib, and through him became familiar with the Prime Minister himself. Now everyone close to him knew that they would benefit by the abuse of power and the corruption.
The plot to defraud 1MDB began in early September 2009, on a mega yacht in the Mediterranean. On board, Jho Low, Najib, his wife Rosmah, and their children. The hosts, two co-founders of a newly established Saudi Arabian petroleum company, one a Saudi prince. Within weeks, the Sovereign Wealth Fund signed a $2.5 billion joint venture with the Saudi company, 1MDB agreeing to invest $1 billion, almost all its funds at the time.
When you put $1 billion in a single company for a sovereign fund, that raises a lot of alarm bells.
By the end of September, 1MDB had paid its first instalment of $700 million. But the money never made it to the joint venture. Instead, it was diverted to a Swiss bank account controlled by Jho Low. It was just the start of the scam that would see $4.5 billion stolen from the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Our approach is to fundamentally question how quality is created.
Jho Low set up an international investment company, Jinwoo Capital, in Hong Kong, and touted his integrity and business acumen.
I do believe that this Jho Low felt that he was free to do anything he wanted and that he couldn't be touched because he had air cover coming from the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister's family.
Najib's government threatened and silenced 1MDB whistleblowers and even tried to derail the US investigation.
It turned into a campaign of trying to get us to stop conducting the investigation.
Newly retired FBI agent Bill McMurray led the US 1MDB case from July 2015.
The evidence was very compelling, and it's really the ultimate sin of a public official to take the money out of the hands of the people that you were elected to serve for your own good. And then to do it on a scale that was done on this case is just sickening.
So sickening for the Malaysian public that in May 2018, they voted out Najib Razak's corrupt government and his party that had ruled Malaysia for more than 60 years. Police raids on Najib's family homes seized hundreds of millions of dollars worth of handbags, jewelry, and cash.
The bottom line is, as Prime Minister, he profited handsomely from allowing Jho Low to mastermind this scam.
Najib Razak, former Prime Minister of Malaysia, has been convicted of money laundering
in connection with the 1MDB scandal.
In July 2020, Najib was convicted of 1MDB-related corruption, sentenced to 12 years jail, subject to appeal. It's a fate Jho Low's been desperate to avoid. Only a day after the 2018 police raids on Najib's homes, he was on the phone from his hideout to the new Malaysian government led by Mahathir Mohamad.
You know, I wanted you to just convey, if possible, to Mahathir that I really believe that the change in government does present a real opportunity to resolve these 1MDB-related issues. And I am committed to achieve that.
In May 2018, although not yet facing criminal charges in the United States, Jho Low was fighting off civil lawsuits aimed at seizing more than $1 billion worth of assets, from masterpieces to the $250 million mega yacht Equanimity, all bought with 1MDB money. On the phone, he claimed that just before the Malaysian election, he'd been on the brink of a deal with the US government.
Basically, I agreed to give him all the assets. The US sells it, and the monies will be used to directly repay 1MDB US dollar bonds.
But there'd been a major roadblock. Najib Razak's kleptocracy was still in power.
The US doesn't trust the Malaysian government, so they said we're not going to send back the money.
And that wasn't all. Najib's government feared incrimination if Jho Low agreed to give back assets.
If I sign the deal, basically the Malaysian government would say, okay, so are you now saying that, you know, the monies are allegedly from 1MDB when the position is not?
Correct.
But my position, I told them, look, you know, in the US, you can sign settlement agreements which have no admission of wrongdoing.
Would we love an admission of guilt? Absolutely. But it's not a must-have.
Deborah LaPrevotte is a former veteran FBI agent. She was part of the initial 1MDB investigation.
He may not accept responsibility or admit guilt, but that doesn't mean that there isn't enough evidence out there already to prosecute him without an admission of guilt.
We made a strategic decision here that we would go forward with the civil action because it gave us an opportunity to lay out in great detail a lot of the evidence that we had of how the money was stolen, where it went, what it was used for. I think we're very confident that we will be able to prove Jho Low's involvement and his position in this scheme.
Singapore had already laid charges against Jho Low for his involvement in laundering 1MDB funds through its financial system. But the fugitive claimed he'd almost sealed a deal with the city-state as well, brokered by none other than Najib's hand-picked Attorney General. The same man in 2016 cleared the then Prime Minister of any wrongdoing in relation to 1MDB.
The Attorney General had numerous discussions with the Singapore AG, and they actually agreed to close off those charges. In return, I agreed to waive my claims to all the assets, and then they also agreed to basically lift the Interpol red notice, because Singapore has also put a red notice on me. That's why I have travel restrictions.
But he says once again the deal fell through. Still determined to get his international arrest warrant lifted, he now wanted the new Mahathir government to help.
I have given up a lot of the assets, and there's still a portion that I haven't given up. So I think if Singapore hears from Malaysia to say, look, Mr. Low is going to waive all these claims, I can do it within the next 5 days, easy.
Okay.
Obviously, in return, then I need, Singapore to lift my Interpol red notice, which they were willing to do, and that, in future they can't file any new notices on me, but if they want to file new charges on me, that's their business.
And making demands on Singapore was just the start of what the fugitive wanted the new Malaysian government to do for him.
I'm willing to waive all my rights to all the assets, and then effectively say the Malaysian government can take all of it. And then in return, basically, I would need Malaysia's undertaking that, because of my cooperation, that this is settled and there will be no future proceedings against me and so on and so forth.
And that wasn't all. He wanted Malaysia to then negotiate on his behalf around the world.
And then for Malaysia to coordinate with Singapore, US, Switzerland, the same deals.
I think that was his best shot in getting out of jail, but there is no chance at all that we will agree to drop all charges against him, because he's pretty much like the most wanted man in Malaysia.
I think he's delusional. It's like the bank robber who gets caught and he's like, well, if I return the money, then I don't want to be charged with robbing the bank. Well, you still robbed the bank, and in this case, you robbed the development fund. Think of all the good that should have been done for all of those years that weren't done because of Jho Low. He's someone who masterminded a $4.5 billion fraud. He knew what he was doing, right? He knew that bribes were being paid. He knew that he had friendly bankers in his pocket. So I think there's still the arrogance of, I can buy my way out of this.
And that arrogance extended to a belief his help was indispensable to the US Department of Justice.
We're trying to be cooperative in terms of liquidating the assets as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So typically what happens is we're trying to sell all the assets.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for the DOJ and Malaysia, basically, so you all don't have to deal at the asset level.
The US seized Jho Low's mega yacht Equanimity in Indonesian waters a few months earlier. But as far as Jho Low was concerned, he was still at its helm, navigating its sail.
We're talking to them to try and move it from Indonesia to the Mediterranean, because we think it can get a much higher price than the US. Because as you know, the summer season is easier to sell a boat. So that I think when the time comes, we may need your help to talk to the Indonesians.
Mm-hmm.
But that will, of course, be with the DOJ's consent.
Yes. Okay.
It's like he still thinks he's calling the shots, right? I'll get them the best bang for the buck. But the U.S., they don't need Mr. Low's assistance to get the best price for the yacht. Again, I think it's him inserting himself into the investigation. This was all just some large misunderstanding. And, of course, that's not the case.
Today, Najib Razak is charged with corruption.
With Najib Razak's stunning fall from grace, ever the opportunist, Jho Low was ready to turn on the former Prime Minister.
I just think it's unfair. Look, at the end of the day, whatever they want to say, but ultimately, I have no authority to make any decision.
He put the blame for the 1MDB scandal firmly on Najib, who crucially was not only Prime Minister, but also Malaysia's Finance Minister when billions of dollars were siphoned from the fund.
It's a pretty known fact that, all the approvals have to be approved by the Minister of Finance.
Jho Low is not alone on the run. Many other 1MDB accomplices also fled Malaysia and are still wanted by the country's authorities. To curry favour with the new Mahathir administration, Jho Low offered some of them as potential witnesses for future prosecutions of Najib and his wife Rosmah, who'd also soon contest charges from money laundering to soliciting bribes of more than $45 million.
To be honest, I know most of the people that can be very helpful. If the objective is, let's look at black and white, who's at fault, is the Prime Minister at fault, is the First Lady at fault, then I think everyone can go back and prepare the documentation and so on and so forth.
The US Department of Justice revealed that between 2011 and 2015, more than $1 billion of 1MDB money flowed into the former Prime Minister's personal bank accounts. And of that, only $80 million came from the Saudi Arabian government, but Najib claims it all did.
I want to say this, that the only reason why I accepted, because I had assurance, from King Abdullah that he would support me. I do not have any knowledge beyond that, please. And that is a fact.
Not according to Jho Low. He corroborates the US findings.
So I'll just give you the reality. The reality is, it is true that King Abdullah actually agreed to give a donation to the PM. But that was a small portion of a larger portion. So I think what they're trying to do is take first section and paint it all over, the thing in general.
Okay.
And Jho Low suggested a particular fellow fugitive could reveal what Najib knew about the true origin of the money. Nick Faisal had authority over Najib's personal bank accounts.
Nick Faisal's point is, he's happy to sign a statutory declaration. I'm going to make sure that that is consistent to the factual events, and if that is agreed, he'll sign it, and then he just wants to go back and continue his life.
Okay.
When it came to assets bought with 1MDB funds, Jho Low was determined that if he had to return his co-conspirators must also return theirs.
I think the most challenging part is trying to identify the flows, used to purchase all this jewelry.
In July 2013, Najib's wife Rosmah met Jho Low and a New York jeweller on another mega yacht in the Mediterranean. The US Justice Department asserts she was there to view a 22-carat pink diamond. Jho Low paid $4 million just to rent the yacht and a whopping $27 million for the diamond for Rosmah, all from 1MDB money. But incredibly, the former Prime Minister maintains the jewel was a gift from Sheikh Mansour, the brother of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi.
Jho Low presented this as a gift from Sheikh Mansour, okay? There's a culture in the Middle East that expensive presents are given.
When the police raided Najib's home, the pink diamond was nowhere to be found. But some 12,000 other pieces of jewellery, valued at more than $100 million, were. According to Jho Low, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to jewellery purchased for Rosmah on the 1MDB expense account.
I don't have like an accurate number because I think, this thing happened over time.
Yeah.
But I believe, the number is north of $500 million. That's a huge number.
Come again? How much?
The number, I think, is north of $500 million.
To track down the more than $500 million worth of jewels, Jho Low urged the Mahathir administration to seek out Rosmah's trusted shopping guru, Natasha Mapuri, and he sent copies of her and her husband's Singaporean passports to help find her.
This Natasha lady is the central person that literally kept books on everything. Definitely, she's the one person that would have records dating back years and years of everything. And I'm pretty sure she kept it as leverage.
And the fugitive even suggested Mapuri may have committed a crime.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy because she did, make money off, that thing Rosmah, things like that. So I'm sure that there can be, charges against her if you wanted to. But, I mean, you all can figure out what's the best way.
In early 2019, the Malaysian police placed Mapuri on a wanted list. She's still at large, and most of the $500 million worth of jewellery remains unaccounted for.
I mean, that's a lot of bling, right? A lot of my kleptocrats liked portable assets. And, they could be spread out in safes in different countries. They could be going into private auction and liquidating those assets. Even if you're getting 50 cents on the dollar and it was $500 million, that's $250 million. So it's not, it's not chump change.
Coming up, Jho Low betrays 1MDB's partners in the Middle East and reveals how he's protected by the United Arab Emirates and China.
Jangan lupa bantu like dan subscribe Prihatin TV. Sehingga bersiaran lagi, Assalamualaikum.